Her YA novel Asmara's Summer was adapted for screen to become Dil Dosti Dilima on Amazon Prime, and other works are in the process of being optioned or adapted. Her YA novel, The Henna Startup, is the winner of the Neve Literature Festival Award 2024 and the Crossword Book Award 2024, along with receiving honorable mentions at the BK Award 2024. Madhurima Vidyarthi. Madhurima, in her day job, is an endocrinologist trained in Kolkata and London and a fellow of the Royal College of Physicians, UK. She works in the field of adult endocrinology with a special interest in the endocrinology of fertility and pregnancy. She has also been a passionately committed writer. Over the years, she has written in many formats, including articles for The Statesman and scripts for educational documentaries and a CD-ROM created by PricewaterhouseCoopers on Satyajit Ray, narrated by Sir Richard Attenborough. But her enduring love has always been fiction. She writes across a range of genres and age groups. Her latest release is The School for Bad Girls, a fictionalized telling of the women's emancipation and education movement in India, featuring Kadambini Ganguly, the first woman to train as a doctor in India. An upcoming historical novel for adults is slated to be released in January 2025 by Neogi Books. She's also part of the Italian Consulate Initiative, Bridge of Stories, an anthology of short fiction by Indian and Italian authors. She's written for Woman Inc. and the Sarang magazine, amongst others. Swati Sengupta. Swati Sengupta is an author and gender rights educator. Her books include Rebellion in Ranchi, The Incredible Life series, Half the Field is Mine, Out of War, Guns on My Red Earth, Murder in the City, The Talking Bird, and A Tea Garden Party. She runs a gender workshop series for the young titled The Elephant in the Room. Her Dear Boys program on gender sensitization for teenage boys has won her many bouquets and a few brickbats too. She chose to ignore the brickbats and continue her audacious and unflinching determination to focus on talking to young boys on gender equality. A former journalist, she has worked for over 2 decades with leading newspapers in India. Priyadarshinee Guha. An alumni of Loreto House, La Martiniere for Girls, and Presidency College, Priyadarshinee Guha is a master in modern history and a gold medalist from Calcutta University. Passionate about teaching, she chose to make this her life force. She has been teaching history and English for the last 20 years in reputed schools of Kolkata, namely Modern High School, the Heritage School. As a teacher of history, she has conducted several workshops for students and training for teachers in using novels and creative approaches in the classroom. A trained Rabindranath Sangeet singer, she has worked for several years in a reputed Bengali theatre group in Calcutta. Theatre was carried into the classroom, which led her to mount several award-winning productions under her directions. She has also directed water ballets set in Tagorean themes. Presently, she is the Vice President of the Kolkata Center for Creativity, and she is carrying on her mission for marrying the arts with the education. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone, and it's delightful to be here in a new venue at the Agri-Horticultural Gardens for the 13th edition of the Kolkata Literary Meet, and it's always wonderful to be a part of the Junior Kolkata Literary Meet, because it's lovely to see young people in the audience, and I'm sure for most of you it's a wonderful day out because you're not having to study different subjects in school and you're out here with your friends having a really nice time. This session is very special because we have not one, not two, but 3 authors, and there is a thread of commonality between all 3. That's why we are together with them in this session. We'll come to that in a bit, but I would request each one of them, and Andaleeb, maybe you should go first, that for many of the children in the audience, maybe they haven't read all your books, or they've read 1 or maybe 2. So if you could give them a bit about the books and particularly the one which we will discuss this morning.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, Malvika and Deepjani and the Junior Kolkata Literary Meet for having me. I'm delighted to be back here. It's always a pleasure to come to Kolkata, and I was here last year and the Henna Startup had just been published. So this year, it's been more than a year since the book has come out, and it's received so much love and so much of accolades from people, from readers, from children, from adults. It's fantastic. I've written a lot of books. Some of you, I don't know whether you would have read Asmara's Summer or When She Went Away, Mirror, Mirror. Those books are here at the bookstore. But today I'm here to very briefly talk about the Henna Startup, which is a story of a young girl who's around 16, 17, and she's an ambitious young woman who comes from a lower middle class Muslim family in Bangalore. And she is the sort of person who doesn't want her situation, her environment to stop her from wanting to achieve what she wants. So she wants to rise above, whatever their family is. And she wants to do it with her academics, with her studies. And given that I come from Bangalore, which is very known for its technology and being called the Silicon Valley of India and all that, it made sense to write a book about a girl who wants to make an app to help her mother streamline her henna business. So this book is about that. On the surface, it appears to be a simple story of a girl trying to achieve something. But there's a lot of drama happening. And, that kind of resonates with a lot of drama that happens in a lot of homes. And I just wanted to portray that. Some of it is a lived experience, and we'll discuss about it. But overall, I wanted to write about a story about a girl who goes about doing what she wants, irrespective of how she is dressed, what she looks like. Because currently in our country, there is a certain preconception about the way, a woman in a burqa would be, So I'm here sitting in a burqa talking to you about my heroine, Abir in the henna startup. Abir is a very Bengali name. No, maybe
But interestingly, it's a name that is usually given to men.
Men,
Yeah.
okay. So, so I'll move on. We can talk about it later. That's a story, Henna Startup. It's available here. I'd love to hear from y'all if y'all have already read it. Or if y'all are going to read it, I'd love to hear about your thoughts on Instagram. I'm very active there.
We'll move to Shati. And Shati has several books on women and girls. And Shati, a little bit about that before we go into other details.
Okay. Yeah, so I think most of my writing is focused on gender. So even those that are not directly focused on gender, so that is also, I talk about gender in bits and pieces here and there about that. But specifically relevant to this session, this discussion would be Anandibai Joshi, who is the first Indian woman doctor who was trained in the United States, outside India. So we'll come to that because Madhurima has written about the first Indian woman doctor who was trained in India. And there's also Jhalkari Bai. We know a lot about Indian kings. Our history is heavily focused on kings and battles, but not so much on women leaders. So there's Jhalkari Bai, and also there's a sports person, Aruti Shaha, who was the first Asian woman to cross the English Channel. And also, till this day, she's the youngest Indian Olympian. She was in the Olympics when she was less than 12 years old. So we'll come to all the details of, two of these are biographies, so you can read about these individuals, these very brave and successful women. And I also have Half the Field is Mine, which I talked about in an earlier session, which is on a mixed football team where girls and boys play football together. When, children are young, the boys and girls play together, but as soon as they start growing up a bit, the parents, the neighbors, they want them to play separately. Like when I visit schools, I also see that boys are sitting and girls are sitting separately. So all these issues are there in the book, told in the form of stories. We'll come to the details later as we...
Madhurima, it's over to you to tell us a little bit about the School for Bad Girls and why you chose Kadumbini Ganguly.
So the book is called The School for Bad Girls because this book is set in the late 1900s and it's about the first girls who went to high school. So there were schools for primary students, women's schools, girls' schools for primary students. But the moment they turned sort of 9, 10, they were taken away and they were married off. And there was a group of people, men and women both, who thought this should change. And it's about them. It's also about the actual students, the girls, who were courageous enough to go through with it, regardless of the pressures from society, from the larger community. And the reason it's called the school for bad girls is because contemporary articles in newspapers call them bad simply because they wanted to study, go to college, have a higher education. And Kadambini Ganguly had to come in because she was one of the first women who graduated from a university in the British Empire. So in the entire British Empire, starting from the United Kingdom, Oxford, Cambridge, whatever, till, wherever the Brits were ruling, she was the first woman, one of the first women to graduate from a university, to get a university degree. And then, of course, she went on to become the first woman to graduate as a doctor in India. So the reason I am sitting here as a doctor today, as a practicing clinician today, is because of Kadambini Ganguly.
I think this is something we need to think about, and particularly the girls in the audience. I mean, there's a lot that you as children, I think, just take for granted because you are in the 21st century and going to school seems so, normal, the normal thing to do, sitting in the classroom, doing all the things that boys do and more is something that comes very easily and naturally. It's not questioned. But here are authors who are telling us a little bit about how we've arrived here. And it's always very good to know from the past because what is it that was there that has led us to arrive here is vital. And I think another question which should come up, and Andaleeb, I'll ask you to address this. This is a thought that comes back over and over again to me. Has much changed? And here I'm saying particularly for girls, has much changed, let's say, from even the 19th century to the 21st? Yes, overtly a lot, but I want you to address that at a deeper level.
I think, the change has been very gradual. If I were to, I don't know about 19th century, if I were to talk about my grandmother and then my mother, my grandmother went to school in Madras, my mother was homeschooled, my aunts went to school, but they didn't study beyond the 10th. There wasn't the opportunity for them. And my father moved, so I'm from Vellore in Tamil Nadu. And it's a small town, which is now a city. Now there are opportunities, but back then there wasn't so much of a focus on education. So, and my father moved us to Bangalore because he wanted us to go to schools. He wanted us to study. So I think the change has been slow, gradual. And then, of course, when I hadn't even finished college when I got married. But that was, again, around 27, 28 years ago. So now today, I think there is it's a very slow change, at least in my community, where I think for a lot of people, education is more of ticking a checkbox. She is educated because that goes into the girl's biodata for marriage. Everything is for marriage. So when, I feel like education is not given that impetus that you can do something with it. When I was in school, I never attended any of those career guidance classes that we would have because I was very disheartened. My mother had told me that, once you finish college, we'll get you married. So I was like, that's it. This is all my life. That's all my life is going to be. What's the point of having a career? Why should I even go? I was very disheartened. And in fact, I got married even before I finished college. But I was also very determined and I wanted to do something. I wanted to, so I feel that there are spots of, so in fact, in all over India, there is a sort of an organization which recognizes Muslim women who have achieved certain things. So we have one in Karnataka, we have one across the states. So it's very interesting to see, different women who have emerged. There is a police officer, there's a pilot. So, when you think of yourself in isolation, you think, okay, this was my life and this is how I achieved this. And when you see all these women, all the different hurdles they've crossed, so I'm amazed. So I would definitely say that change has happened. It's very slow, it's very gradual. It still needs to to happen. And I think the perception in a lot of communities especially, I'm not just talking about Muslim communities, I'm talking about overall in India, the perception needs to change. The reason why I keep bringing it to Muslim communities is because within that community, a lot of people, for them, education is like what I said. It's a prerequisite. It has no meaning on its own, So I think change definitely more change needs to happen. Again, I don't think it can be a radical change. It has to evolve gradually. So when you look back like 10, 15 years and then say, oh, this much has changed. Like I was telling you earlier, I got married at 19, and nowadays girls are getting married much later, in the sense, not much later, but 23, 24, 25. So you look back at it and you're like, okay, that's not bad. That's a change, that's a positive change. But a lot more needs to happen.
Yeah, agreed that change has happened, is happening. And I mean, now we stand at a point where even girls can choose not to get married and also pursue a career. I mean, so that is wonderful. But I think what we need to get at, and I'll bring Shati in on this, that, often the changes I feel are more overt. And what is actually happening in the mind? What about the mindsets of people? How are we looking or addressing gender issues? And that is something very important. And, I'll share this with you that I've seen this in classrooms. I've seen this as a teacher when, you particularly have children going to a co-ed school where boys and girls are sitting in the same classroom, and then something is said and, the automatic reaction from a boy is, oh, you're not supposed to do that. We are going. It comes very naturally. So now that is actually showcasing or telling us that not much has changed. Because what is there in the mind is something that needs to be thought about and questioned. Shati, if you could come in on that, because you work so much with gender issues. So if you tell us.
I conduct these workshops on gender also. So I look at various figures also from time to time. And one of this is a World Economic Forum data, which says that in order to bring equality, by giving, focusing on girls, giving them opportunities, it will still take us 130 years. Now it's more than 130 years to achieve that equality. And I think one of the important things, we have achieved a lot. There is more equality now. But I think one of the difficulties is to actually identify the bias. Even we see that, girls are going to school, boys are going to school. They are achieving so much. But there is still a lot. In many things, we do not understand that there is a bias. And it is very important to understand and identify that bias, right? For example, in some of the workshops, I show some of these are, so much taken for granted that we do not even question. There is one scene from the film Shaumapti where this boy is going to see this girl. And I asked the boys recently I did a series of workshops in Jhargram. And I asked the boys, why do girls do not visit homes of boys before a marriage? Why is it? And they could not, they have never thought about it. It is very much taken for granted that a boy is supposed to go to a girl's house before a marriage and choose the girl. The opposite doesn't happen. And in one of the rare cases, a boy said that, well, in my house, the opposite had happened. My brother he lives in the US, and the bride-to-be also lives in the US, and they had come to our house to see whether my brother is a good to-be groom. So very little changes, but I think the most important thing is to identify the bias that is still there, but we do not see them because they have been there for so long and we do not even identify them as bias.
Another question where I'd want to bring Madhurima in now is, there is this thing about fiction and non-fiction. So the question here that I have is that, you did a very interesting mix in your book, School for Bad Girls, where we all know that you are writing about Kadumbini Ganguly, and yet you fictionalized, a large portion of the book. And why did you choose to do that? And obviously, we are looking at young authors, not young authors, young adults and youngsters in the audience who are primarily your readers. So why did you choose to do this interesting mix of fiction and non-fiction?
There are, it's a slightly complicated answer. One is that it works better if we read a story. We may not like to read history books, but we will read a story if it interests us. The second is, that Kadumbini, there's not a lot of writing that Kadumbini herself left for us to read, as opposed to, say, her contemporary Lady Obola Bose, who wrote, copious, her correspondence is copious. She wrote lots and lots of travelogues. So there is a body of work which sort of expresses what the writer feels. But in Kadumbini's case, that was not so. But it was great fun trying to understand her as a person from the things that she did and the things that she achieved. And it was also great fun making her up, as it were, and putting her in her place in history. I had help from a member of the family, her great-grandson, and he gave me a very interesting tidbit which was very well established as family lore. It was that she actually proposed to her husband. So the man she married, Dwarokanath Ganguly, was her teacher. He was 17 years older than her. He was a Brahmin, she was a Kayasto, and although they were both Brahmos, the caste system still prevailed, and it was their marriage was the reason for a lot of their friends to sort of get annoyed. But she knew what she wanted. She knew that she wanted this career progression, and the choice was between, I think, staying single and being married to somebody who would not understand what she wanted to do. And it's very interesting that her admission into Calcutta Medical College actually happened 11 days after the wedding. So that these are facts, and it's great fun to go back and try and project what she would have felt while all of this was going on. And secondly, as a trailblazer, she should have or would have felt some pressure. It would have been very abnormal had she not. She was about 13 years old when she came out from Bhagalpur to Calcutta, and she never went back. She came to boarding school in a city where she had no immediate family. She had good friends. Well, she had relatives, but she was in boarding school. The other reason that we had to make up a lot of this was also because women are systematically written out of history. It's not as if historians ignore them. They choose to actively write them out. I'll give you a very small example. When you are taught about famous people from Calcutta, or when you go around and you see these paintings on the wall, faces of famous people from Calcutta, if there are 10, there would be perhaps one woman, who? Mother Teresa. Where are the others? It's just in the last couple of years that Kadumbini Ganguly has made an appearance, but there are so many others. Where are they? And why are they not there, up there with the rest of them? So all around the world, women have been systematically written out of history, especially women who have achieved in any field, especially in the field of science. We all know about what Watson Crick did. So if you don't know the story, go and look it up. It's happened all the time. So there's a lot less written about her than we would like to know.
Well, that would be the subject or the topic of another session at Column, where we could possibly discuss why women have been left out of history systematically. But coming back to, our session this morning, considering we are questioning or discussing patriarchy, and all three of you have dabbled in this in your book in your books in different ways. It's very important for us to know And maybe for all of us here on the stage, we have seen this more than maybe children have, or children see it and they don't understand what they are seeing. That is also a situation. And we'll ask the children, in fact, when we, rather than them asking us certain questions, I think we'll put the question to them that do they see this in their daily lives? What I would want each of you to tell us a little bit is that why did you all choose such powerful female voices in your writing? Because each of you have very, very powerful female characters in your books. So there obviously has to be some reason why you did so. I mean, it could very well be that, Shati, your book wouldn't have been on Arati Shah and it would have been on someone else. Or it wouldn't have been on Anandibai and it would have been on someone else. And Andaleeb would have not had Abir as a girl but a boy. But why did you? So Andaleeb will take it from you.
Abir definitely had to be a girl because when I was writing this book, I didn't want her to be an inspiration, but I wanted readers to look at her as aspirational, as something to probably because I think it's a lot of, over the years, pop culture, everything, tells us ambition is bad for girls. Ambitious women are shown in a very negative light in movies and TV shows. You see all those, the homemaker is the one who keeps the family happy and together. The ambitious one goes out to work and no one is happy, So I wanted to write something which that, and very clearly Abir mentions that in the book, that ambition is not ugly, especially so I wanted to write a character who's angry. I think a lot of, it's taken me a year and a half to process that anger actually has come from me myself. So I'm definitely I'm very privileged to have made it wherever this is. But at the same time, I also feel that a lot of whatever happened in my life has been unfair. And I think some of that finally just came out in the form of Abir. I would say I've put a little bit of myself. I would say that Abir and her mother are alter egos of myself. So that way, a little bit of me, a little bit of me is in her mother and in Abir. So Abir, in fact, finally gets to do the things I couldn't do. So she is aspirational for me also. So for me, I think that was the reason why she had to be a girl. Because boys already can do whatever they want. Boys, I have two boys. And I can see, that their lives would have been very different. And my life would have been very different if they had been girls. It's just the way it is. And as much as we are challenging society, there are certain times, like Madhurima just said, like with Kadambini, you have to, Kadambini, right? So you have to the pressure to do certain things. There is only so much in real life, at least, that you can rebel and you can, put your foot down. So there is, in fact, a scene in the henna startup where Abir refuses to get married. Now, this is actually something that happened with me, where I refused to get married, but I was basically overruled. I got married. It's a different situation, different question, different situation altogether, that, getting married, and I had a supportive husband and I've managed to do whatever I've wanted. I just felt that it never needed to have happened that way. You don't...
I mean, it could have just been very different if your husband wasn't supportive.
It could have been extremely different. I'm very thankful to him, to my mother-in-law, for all the support and love they've given me over the years. But I just, I think somewhere deep inside, I did have that resentment that I had to make, that there was no choice, that I didn't have any agency over my life. So I think fictionalizing this and giving power to my character made me feel a little better about it, So that definitely, Abir had to be a girl. There is, like I said, boys are already doing whatever they want. I wanted to write a story about a girl who does whatever she wants.
So remember that she wanted to write about a girl who does whatever she wants. So that's a lot of food for thought for all the girls in the audience, I think. And we'll ask you, okay, let me ask the children now, before we come to you, Shati. All the girls in the audience, How many of you will listen to your parents and get married if they tell you to? Put your hands up. It's fair to ask them. I mean, they can voice that. This is a place where they can, actually come out in the open and say, everyone's playing very safe, I have to say. And, a few hands there at the back. And don't be mortally scared that your teachers are around. They won't spill on you. They won't tell your parents. All right, Shati, why don't you come in now and tell us? Because I think in all your books, there are such powerful voices.
When we actually planned this incredible live series, Speaking Tiger books, Sudeshna and I, we were very clear that there will be 4 books. These are all biographies for young readers, and 4 of them are on men, and 4 are on women. So there's equality in that too. And well, I think I always want to write about powerful women, female voices, because I am always I mean, everybody accuses me that I always see gender in everything. So in one of my books, Half the Field is Mine, it starts with that. There's, the 2 girls, there's one girl who goes to the Rabindra Shorobor Stadium for a match, and she's very angry and comes back and says that there is gender even in jhalmuri. Because the jhalmuri seller is selling 2 types of jhalmuri, one meant for girls because they like more sour things, and one more jhal, which is...
Are you serious?
Yes,
this is a new one that I've heard.
So this was told to me by a friend, and I put that in the book. So I tend to find, bias and, inequality in everything. So I always have this urge to put this in my book, in every character, in everything, even on the books which are not on gender. For example, some of the things we tend to not look at very seriously are the wisdom of the elderly, the grandmother. In Rebellion in Ranchi, it's a story on a young boy and the grandmother, and it's not on gender as such. It's a story in 1915 Ranchi, pre-independent India, and there I show also about the wisdom of the grandmother, how she is able to crack the mysteries that others cannot around her. So, to take women seriously is also something that children need to learn from a very young age. I think that always comes that at the back of my mind in everything, I always see the need to talk about the powerful voices of women. And I do that in all my stories.
Just wanted to add one point here before I come to Madhurima. I was very lucky to have grandmothers on either side, paternal and maternal, from whom I learned immensely. And, what I would want to say is that the things that they taught me didn't come out of any books, didn't come out of textbooks, but there are life skills that we can talk about, which they taught me, which maybe no one else could have. So there was a lot that they knew, and I'm, corroborating what you're saying about coming from the elders. Madhurima, if you could come in and tell us about, even in your earlier books, there are powerful, girls and voices of women. So why so?
Well, strength manifests in different ways. And it doesn't always have to be physical, it's mental. And it's not always related to literacy or affluence or, the other sort of more tangible parameters. So in my grandmother's masterpiece, which is the first book, and it's nominally for younger readers, there is this grandmother who has never earned any money in her life, but she takes a stand, and even after retirement age, the grandfather is trying to control her life. And I think that is a very typical scenario in so many homes that still exists. And just connecting it to what I've done in the School for Bad Girls is this whole concept of not only being educated but standing on your own feet, which in the sort of bluntest terms mean making sure you earn money. Because if you don't earn money and you don't have a career and you don't have, your own pennies to fall, pennies, rupees, whatever, to fall back on, you are forever obligated to someone. And that someone usually is the male, the wage earner, because that is how it sort of pans out in most households. And Kadambini, she understood that, and she was tremendous. I mean, work-life balance as a term was not around, but she had 8 children with this man she married. She went all over the city practicing medicine. She sailed to England to get a triple qualification. She came back. She was called by the Rajmata of Nepal. She went and cured her and came back. And she did this having to face not only bias because of her gender, but also because of her race. So please remember, this is 1880 onwards. The British are at their climax in India. Calcutta is still the capital. The partition hasn't happened. And women doctors, what is very interesting is women doctors from England and America come to India because they are not given importance in their homeland. So you see how it plays out. And it's the same everywhere. The moment you are born a girl, you are automatically marginalized. So I will say what I say everywhere. It's not today about how we bring up our girls. It is about how we bring up our sons. It's about that. It's about not the girl. You have empowered the girl. You have set her free to a certain extent. Have you actually sensitized the men enough to deal with a strong, empowered, independent woman? Have you done that? I think that is the need of the hour.
Can I just add a bit to
Yeah, sure,
what
sure.
Madhurima has said about the 2 doctors, Kadambini and Anandibai. Anandibai actually traveled to the United States because she was very upset with the situation in India, where she could not even go out and walk.
And the way she was ridiculed.
She was
I mean, when she
ridiculed.
went out for a walk with her
Yes.
husband.
And
so, I mean, she was with her
This
husband and not
this was
anyone
in
else.
Calcutta, right?
In
She
Calcutta.
sailed from Calcutta.
So, I mean,
she
the
could
fact
not,
that she couldn't just go out for a walk because people would look at her and wonder what's wrong with
Yeah.
her and why she's out there.
Exactly. And that's the reason she had decided, she was very firm that she would not study medicine, because I think just before she was leaving, an opportunity had come also. The reason why, Kadambini was able to enter medical college. But Anandibai was very sure she didn't want to be a doctor here. She wanted to travel to the United States.
I think we need to open it up for questions now. So anyone in the audience who has a question for any of the authors, just one thing, children, when you ask a question, let it be a question and let it not be a comment, because the authors are here to interact with you. So I think there are children at the back. So if someone can take a microphone there.
Greetings to all present here. My name is Shiza Ahmed and I am from Madhurima Shishu Vihar. My question is open to all that are present on stage. So, what do you think, since we are discussing so much about a patriarch society, what would the world be like if it were a matriarch society where women were the one with the benefit, and you could say that the men, they were the underdogs, serving the women, washing the dishes, staying at home and taking care of the children? My question is open to all, and thank you for this opportunity.
So thank you for your question. I think there are a few strands here that need to be just sorted out. There are matriarchal societies in India. They do exist. And I think when you talk about serving each other, I'm not sure that I'm not sure it has to be a disbalance or an imbalance of power. So if you have a husband who washes the dishes and maybe stays at home and the wife goes out to work, I don't see how that can happen only in a matriarchal society.
No.
Yeah,
My
but
question.
One more clarification here before we carry on. There's nothing wrong in the task. I mean, the way you made it sound, that washing dishes is something only menials do, it's nothing like that. I mean, whatever is the work that we do, and whoever does it, it's immaterial. It's work, and we do it. So, it's not about the fact that in a patriarchal society, just because women work in the kitchen and wash dishes, there's something wrong with it. And in a matriarchal society, that wouldn't be the case. So, come in, Shati.
We are trying to achieve equality and not superiority over somebody else. It has to be equality where women and men do the same work and.
see, the problem with the term feminism, or even the concept of feminism in a lot of minds, is that it means dominance by the female. It's not that. Feminism is better replaced, I think, by humanism. I'm trying to be, just, the term feminism means equality, right? So,
That is something that didn't exist,
That's
so the
right.
term was coined.
Correct.
So now let's move to humanism.
Yeah, so I think to get up to the sort of the ideal that you are talking about will take time, and I don't know that things will change if necessarily if one group holds the whip hand. I don't think that will happen.
Next question. There's someone here in front. Okay, right here in front, there's a girl here.
So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Akira Mehra from Modern High School International, and my question to you is that what inspired you to write these books?
I think each of them did tell us a bit about what inspired them. Andaleeb was the strongest that way because she said that it was her own life struggles that inspired her to write. And Shati spoke about her tremendous interest in equality and also why she chose these 4 women. Madhurima said, why Kadambini Ganguly? So I think it was answered in the session. The last question at the back there, please.
Good morning, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Advitya Mukherjee from Mahadevi Billa Shishu Bihar. So I have a question to all of you that do you believe that fairy tales like Snow White and every other fairy tale in which the boys or the prince come to save the princess or the girl, do you believe it has a negative impact on both males and females and made the male believe they are superior above the girls and they should protect the girls, and the girls should have a male friend or someone to protect themselves?
All right. Let's put it very simply, and I think I'll speak on behalf of all 4 of us because we're more or less from the same generation. Just watch a fairy tale as a fairy tale. Let's not get into, all the layers and, create all these impressions in your mind. Because if I really wanted to talk about Snow White and the 7 dwarfs, to me, the most adorable are the 7 dwarfs. So,
I just want to
please
add one
Andaleeb.
thing. I think what also has helped is that, we've grown up reading those fairy tales. So it's a bit like, you need to know the rules before you break them. So we write things that subvert those, whatever you're talking about. So I think it's kind of helped us to, go against the grain in that way. I think, especially the whole concept of damsels in distress, which is something fairy tales talk about a lot. So I definitely would never want to write about a damsel in distress. Girl who saves herself is basically what I want to write. I have a whole lot of discussion about it when I talk about this in terms of a romance writer and not a young adult writer, because that's where it's a different situation. But fairy tales, like she said, they're just, reading them at surface level was something we did, but obviously you people are...
And we enjoyed it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. I mean, and it's how you address the situation. That is what is most important. It's how you are looking at it, how your perceptions are. And you are the one who is going to create your own perceptions. Let that not be colored by what society imposes on you.
Not
Yes.
only that, sorry, you go first.
I just wanted to add what she meant actually was that does it actually have a negative impact? And I would agree with her in the sense that it does have a negative impact unless you let that sort of direct, have that kind of influence on your mind. But I also feel it is very important to know what's going around, so do not avoid reading them. Like if a movie is doing very well, like a film like Pushpa, I watch it even if I do not, I want to know what's there from my own perspective, because it may not be my kind of a movie, but I wanted to watch it after I watched the trailer, and I was seeing this person, in a sari and dancing. I wanted to know what the story was about. Does it, subvert that narrative? So I want to know it myself, and therefore I think it's important to read those fairy tales, but you know what you're reading, and that should not influence you in a negative way.
And I think what we are all trying to say here is please learn to think for yourself, everybody. When you read something or when you are reacting to something, please ask yourself, is this really what I want to do? Is this what I want to think of? How would I have reacted had I been in this situation? Would I have the courage to do what XYZ did? And I think any piece of creation, whether it is art, literature, film, whatever it is, works best when it urges you to think, when it sort of, makes your own response more introspective than otherwise.
Well, all good things come to an end, so we'll have to close this session. And all three authors will be available at the bookstore for you to get copies of their books signed. And thank you so much, Vidyarthi, from all four of us on stage. And thank you, Malavika, for bringing Column here to this picturesque locale, and let there be one every single year. And most important, thank you everyone in the audience for making it such a beautiful morning and afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. It was lovely listening to all of you.